Toda Rabba. Thank you very much. It's really a great privilege to be here tonight with you, and the whole work that the FIDF is doing for the Israeli soldiers, or if I may say, for all of us as Jewish people in Israel, as Israelis, and as Jewish people worldwide, because I always keep telling people that we are now in a very significant junction. We are 6 million, a little bit more than 6 million Jewish people in Israel, that we are trying to get bigger and bigger, and thank God the baby boom in Israel works. I myself, with my wife, we are responsible for 3 kids and 4 grandkids, and for the beginning it's okay. And we have a little bit more than 6 million Jewish people worldwide, mainly in the United States, that we are praying that this number will not decrease and at least will remain as it is, if not bigger. And we have 6 million Jews, that this number will never go down and will never go up. And that's the memory of 6 million Jews that were murdered during the Holocaust almost 70 years ago. And I think that knowing that, when I'm privileged to be here with you, during the last Protective Edge operation, at the end of the 2nd week, the ground troops in Israel, after the airstrikes, got the command and got into the Gaza Strip to destroy the offensive tunnels of Hamas that were dug from within Gaza Strip towards the border, and in some cases even crossed the border. During this operation, some soldiers got killed at the first days. 2 of them were lone soldiers. Max Steinberg from Los Angeles and Sean from Texas. At the funeral of Sean, which was supposed to be at the 22nd of July, people, his friends, or as a matter of fact, the fans of a football team that Sean was one of them, they were afraid that not many people are going to be at the funeral due to the fact that he is a lone soldier. So they sent messages amongst the fans of the team, and the next day, after his coffin, walked 20,000 Israelis. Max was brought to be buried in Herzl Mount the next day. 30,000 people attended his funeral. They haven't known neither Sean nor Max. They haven't heard about him. They just understood that we are speaking about 2 lone soldiers, and in Israel, lone soldiers will never be alone. That's the most important message that you can learn in Israel, and trust me, I'm 43 years in this business, and even myself, I was surprised how united we are, much more than we are thinking we are really live in Israel. But it's not that the people, it's the whole country. The state of Israel is located, as you all know, in the middle of an ocean, a hostile ocean. 500 million Muslims in almost 30 countries, from Morocco in the west to Afghanistan in the east, from Turkey in the north down to Yemen in the south. Amongst them, 350 million Arabs in 22 countries. we have only with two of them a peace agreement, or shall I say, with the leadership of those two countries, Egypt and Jordan, we have a peace treaty. We don't have it with the people, neither in Egypt nor in Jordan. And living in such an area as a lone country, I must say that you are the reason that we don't feel alone. By the way that the Jewish community in the United States in general, and the supporters of the FIDF in particular, we in Israel feel that we are not alone. We feel that we are connected, strongly connected, with the community here. Here are sitting in front of us some soldiers who left Los Angeles, is that true, Tal? And left Perth in Australia, from both sides of the globe, and came to serve in the IDF in Israel. Because living in Israel, as we all understand, in such an ocean that the three leaders' countries, Muslim countries, Egypt, Iran, Turkey, that each one of them is 10 times bigger in population than the state of Israel. Each one of them is between 35 times to 70 times bigger in land than the state of Israel. But nevertheless, the state of Israel is bigger 3 to 5 times than each one of those countries in the GNP, gross national product, per capita. And you know, I checked just before I came to the States at the USPTO, the administration here who registers patents. And I found that Egypt or Iran registered 100 patents since 2000 till the end of 2013. 100 patents by Iran. Egypt signed 150. Turkey, 350 patents. And the winner is Israel registered 20,119 patents. So how you cannot hate the people of Israel under such results? You know, the world loves big countries who are strong. The same world feels sympathy to small countries who are weak. And here lies the problem. We are a small country, but a strong country. You know, I'm the chairman of the Foundation for the Benefits of Holocaust Survivors in Israel, and recently I met people from the foundation of someone who was a Holocaust survivor and passed away. He was a painter, a well-known painter here in New York. And his name was Boris Lurie from Russia. And he spent many years in camps. He lost his mother and sister over there, and he and his father survived. And he used to look at the camp on the two issues, on the mice and the cats. And he wrote in one of his books, he wrote, I feel sympathy to the mouse, but I feed the cats. And we, Israel, we don't want to get sympathy, or we don't want to get just sympathy. We want to get power. We want to be strong because we need to be strong not just for the state of Israel. We need to be strong for the whole Jewish people worldwide. When I met with Elie Wiesel, Professor Elie Wiesel, who is the president of honor of the foundation, and he told me that he met once with the President of the United States, and the President asked him, Professor Wiesel, what's the importance of the State of Israel for the Jewish people worldwide? And Elie Wiesel told me he thought for a while and then answered. If the State of Israel was not established in 1948, so probably the Jewish people worldwide would be able to survive another 2,000 years in exile without a state. But once the State of Israel was established almost 67 years ago, if, God forbid, this state is going to be destroyed, it might be the end of the Jewish community worldwide. And I think that we in Israel, same as you here, we feel that we are holding the land, the promised land, that after 67 years, nobody can take it from us. Neither the Egyptians nor the Jordanians, and they understood it and they signed a peace treaty with us. But unfortunately, we have still around us many hostile countries and many terror organizations under different names. And the last terror organization, well known under the name ISIS, which started only 2 or 3 years ago, aimed to be a big caliphate in the Middle East, which is a threat not to the State of Israel. It's a threat to the Arab countries. When they started ISIS's Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, then with the food came the appetite. And they decided to cut one IS and to remain Islamic State. I call them IC because they say about themselves, we are trying to build an Islamic caliphate. What's the difference between a state and a caliphate? A caliphate has no borders. A caliphate means the whole Arab area, the whole Arab countries. And those who believe that the ISIS is a bunch of criminals, so let me update you. They are not a bunch of criminals. They are a group of soldiers, former soldiers, majority of them served under Saddam Hussein in Iraq, soldiers, officers. They know something about fighting, and they understand something about tools, weapons, and strategies of war. Practically, they were established under an initiative that launched by Iran, not in order to build ISIS, but that was the result. If I were here 4 years ago, my talk would have been started with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. But since the Arab Spring, I don't know who invented the name, it's an Arab winter, dark winter. Since the Arab Spring broke out, trust me, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict became second or third meaning in the Arab Ocean. They don't have time for the Palestinian issue. They are busy with themselves. Either Libya or Egypt or Iraq or Syria and Lebanon and Saudi Arabia due to what's going on in Yemen. And Iran is behind the screen. Iran, for years, tried to build the northern axis. Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon. Iraq is a majority of Shiites. Iraq is a majority of Shiites, a little bit less, it's only 55% Shiites. Lebanon, the biggest minority are Shiites. And Syria is Shias less. No Shias almost in Syria. So they needed Bashar al-Assad, who is leading the Alawites, which by themselves are a minority in Syria, 10%, or running a country of 70% Sunnis. And it worked for decades under the father, Hafez al-Assad, and under his son, Bashar al-Assad. But 3 years ago, it started to get broken. When the Sunnis, the rebels in Syria, started to fight back. Iran understood that if Syria is getting lost, Lebanon is getting lost. And the northern axis is going to be disappeared. So they sent soldiers and security men from the Iranian Revolutionary Corps to fight with Bashar al-Assad. It was not enough. So they pushed forward Hezbollah, which is one of the two proxies that Iran built. They built it instead in order to attack Israel. But instead of attacking Israel, they were sent to fight in Syria. Till today, almost 1,500 terrorists from Hezbollah got killed in Syria. By the way, it's more than the Israelis killed from Hezbollah during all years. So what started in Syria as a national war or a national revolution, I would say, was moved and transferred into a religious war or a religious revolution. Because when Shiites assisting the Alawites to kill more than 100,000 Sunnis, that's a religious war. So how it affects Israel? When ISIS, the terrorists of ISIS or the soldiers of ISIS, they started to be sent from Iraq to Syria to fight together with Bashar al-Assad's troops. That's what they believed. Thousands were released from Iraqi jail. 600, a year and a half ago, escaped from Abu Ghraib jail in Iraq. Abu Ghraib is a well-known jail even to the Americans because the American troops was in charge of it for years. And trust me, you know Alcatraz in San Francisco. Alcatraz is a summer school compared to Abu Ghraib. And to escape from Abu Ghraib means that someone had to assist them to do so. So the Shiite regime in Iraq allowed them to escape, to go to Syria. In Syria, those soldiers were crystallized as an organization and started to fight back in northeast Syria and in Iraq, and they are getting stronger and stronger. They confiscated banks. They had a lot of money. They took a lot of the tools of the Iraqi army. The Iraqi army came out as a tiger of paper. And now the Western countries started with airstrikes. Airstrikes is a very effective system to slow down the pace of terror organization. In my 43 years of experience, I'm telling you, there's no way to crack down on terrorists only by airstrikes. If you don't have ground troops to detain terrorists, it's not enough to kill terrorists. You need to detain terrorists, to question with them, to take the information, to translate it into action items, and to foil more and more activities, more and more groups, more and more cells. That's the way how you crack down on terrorists. That's what we've done during the defensive fleet operation at the West Bank when we suffered from suicide bombing. And the Gaza Strip, at the last operation, we've just used airstrikes and a very short penetration into the Gaza Strip means that in the future we shall have to do a more profound and a more deeper penetration into the Gaza Strip. Because Israel cannot feel secure and cannot feel safe and cannot see a political horizon solution unless Gaza Strip is going to be demilitarized from military weapon that exists today in Gaza Strip, supplied by Iran over the last 12 or 13 years, let alone at the 2 years when the Muslim Brotherhood were in Egypt. So when we look to the future of our region, we have to insist that the State of Israel will negotiate about the peace process in the future between Israel and the Palestinians with one Palestinian Authority that has one law and one gun for internal security. We cannot allow ourselves to live in a situation that we have two countries and we are the third one. Because it took years until Israel and the Israeli administration, including the Prime Minister, agreed to speak about two-state solution. We cannot allow ourselves to live in a situation that we have three-state solution for two people. That's going to be an escalation that Israel will not allow it to happen. And as I said, being strong, it's not something that we can allow ourselves to take it as a recommendation. It's a state of mind. It's a state of life. It is something that we expect from ourselves. It is something that the whole Jewish community in the world expected from us. And as I said, the whole world is trying to understand how come that such a small and a tiny country is becoming so strong over the 67 years and creating such a deterrence against its neighbors. We don't have any other choice. We are people that we are, the majority that live today in Israel, we've got a country from those people who fought for it, who came prior to 1948. Some of them came from the ashes, fought in Israel. Some of them even died during the Independence War without even building families after they've lost them in the Holocaust in all those death camps. I remember years ago when I was sent to be a guard to a teenager group of Israel that used to go and still go to the camps in Poland. And me, as a son of Holocaust survivor, I thought that I have understood everything about the Holocaust. But then when I went to the teenager group to Poland, and we've got one of the Holocaust survivors with us who escorted us to each site and told the kids what really happened then. And we started from Warsaw, we went to Treblinka, we continued to Majdanek, and the fourth day we arrived in Krakow, near Auschwitz. At the night before we went to Auschwitz, he knocked on my door and told me, Avi, I must talk to you. I said, go ahead. And he said, Avi, I know that tomorrow it's going to be different. And tomorrow it's the first time since I left Auschwitz at the age of 16 to be back to the camp. I think that what you've seen with me in the other camps is going to be different tomorrow. And I asked my wife's permission to be tomorrow not with her, but to go with you. I was sent to protect the kids. It was the first time that we were allowed to carry gun to Poland to protect the Israeli kids due to anti-Semitism events in Poland. And I told them in a very professional way, okay, be my guest. The next day, we watched the movie before going to the camp, and then 150 Israelis started to walk to the camp. a snake of people. When we arrived, I went to the first line. He was next to me on my right. I tried to put him on my left because the gun was on my right. He was in his bubble. He disconnected with me. When we arrived just beneath the gate and the famous written words, Arbeit macht frei, labor liberates, he stopped. He looked at me, and I looked at him. He is in his bubble, and I'm in mine. I'm supposed to be responsible for his protection for the whole 150 kids. I told him we must continue. And he looked at me and surprised me by hugging me. When he hugged me, he touched the gun. And he started to cry. And I told him, hey man, 150 kids are waiting to hear from you about Auschwitz. You cannot stop here. And he looked at me and said the sentence that I've heard from my parents so many times. He told me, Avi, you will never understand what happened to us. And I'm in my professional suit. I told him, what's going on? He said, Avi, you can imagine that I didn't sleep all night. Tens of scenarios ran into my mind, how it's going to be today, the first time that I'm back to Auschwitz. But amongst the tens of scenarios, not even one was close to what happened now. I never thought that one day I'll be back to Auschwitz, escorted with a security man, Israeli security man, armed with a gun. And I looked at him and said, all right, the kids are waiting. And he said, all right, I understand you are in your job. I promise you, those kids, they will hear about Auschwitz the way that nobody can hear about Auschwitz. And he took them, 150 teenagers, Israelis, that to get discipline from 150 Israelis, teenagers, it's much more complicated than to create peace with the Palestinians. And he took them for 6 hours, all around the camp. He jumped, he ran, he walked, he spoke. Nobody interfered him. His wife was very nervous. She came to me and said, Avi, what happened to my husband? I never saw him the way he is behaving now. Did you give him any pills? I said, no. I just told him one thing, what I'm telling everywhere, and I'm telling you. I told him, my dear friend, cool down. The era where Jews are getting killed just because they are Jews is over. Don't worry. The era where Jews are getting killed because they are Jews is over. Thank you very much.